You are now listening to Creative Hora.
Welcome to Creative Hora. I'm Dalia,
And I'm Mary.
and we're so excited to welcome you back to another conversation between two friends.
Yes, friend, I'm excited to chat with you again in our platform. But of course, as we start any episodes, just really want to get into it with a quick friend vibe check. So, friend, how have you been lately? So, whether it's today, maybe the past couple of days, or even your past week.
Yeah, friend. Well, thank you so much for the question. I feel like when you ask me that question, it definitely centers me, and I have to take a moment to just sit with myself and check in. So it's a really good internal vibe check as well. But if I could use one word to describe how I've been feeling the past week, it would have to be a bit ungrounded, honestly. I feel like I've been a little bit of all over the place. I feel like I've neglected a couple routines and habits that typically make me feel very centered and grounded. So yeah, I feel like I'm floating everywhere, and so really my intention and hope from this conversation is that I can get a little bit more grounded.
Yeah, no, I hear you, friend. Sounds like you're feeling, just feeling, and that's an ungroundedness is coming from those feelings. So take all the time you need to reground and feel the ungroundedness along the way.
I appreciate that, friend. Yeah, I think that's part of the process as well. When, of course, with everything happening in the world, we're always going to get ungrounded. And so it is that intentional practice of making sure that we are feeling in our body and we're feeling centered. So, yeah, some days it's going to be a little bit harder too. But, friend, I'm so curious just to hear how you're doing and what the vibe is with you as well.
Yeah, I would say even the past 3, 4 days, I think the words that come to mind or the feelings that come to mind is an ebb and flow.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's you've been really just joyful moments, and we can dive deep into it when we check in a little bit. But really joyful moments with Haya, Hoop As You Are, and our basketball league that just culminated, and the celebration piece that come with that. But then there's also just the reality of the things that are going on in the world, and a lot of families that are being impacted, and just a lot of unknown that's causing a lot of feelings of uncertainties and fear that I'm also feeling, especially living very close to DC. It's I think it's over the years it's inevitable not to feel the energy that just across the nation, like what people are feeling, but also just what's happening in just my backyard.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, ebb and flow, lots of joyful, really grateful moments in the last few days, but also lots of complete opposite of that. So that's where I'm at. A little of ebb and flow, I would say, describes how I'm feeling.
Yeah, friend, I appreciate you sharing that. I know we've talked a lot, and we'll probably talk. We're going to talk about in the podcast that there's a lot to celebrate, but there's also a lot of awareness about what's happening in the United States, in this country, what's happening in our government, and it's really hard to decouple that from our well-being when we are so deeply, at least for me specifically, like deeply connected, and I'm sure you are friends to people that are being impacted by
Hmm.
this administration. So thank you for sharing that, friend. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, of course, friend. That's what the friend vibe check is all about. It's just real, raw, honest emotions and a space for us to even feel.
Yeah, friend. Yes.
But
But
tapping, go ahead.
I was like, I'm excited about our next pull card.
Yes, yes. Our next card pull of the day, and again, just as a reminder for the audience and for you, friend, Here are the colors again, and these cards, just again to repeat cards we're pulling. They're called icebreaker deeper talk cards, and it's really a tool for us to one get a random question that we would never expected and have a conversation about it. And each different color has a category for it. So gray is dreams, yellow is life lessons, green is exposed, baby blue is courage,
Mm,
and orange is beliefs, and then a darker navy blue is self awareness.
okay.
Anything resonated or jumped out to you, friend?
The
Any
one that,
category?
yeah, that stood out to me was the dream category.
Dream. Okay, so that's the gray category. Let me pull this card. Let me see. All right. Dreams, dreams. Okay. So the question is, what dreams do you have for your children and your grandchildren?
Oh,
A lot of assumption there that
yeah.
we want kids. No, I'm kidding.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I guess I'll make this a little bit like broader for me.
Yeah.
What dreams do I have for future generations to come after me?
Yes.
I'll just make
I
it a little
love
bit
that.
more general.
Yeah.
But this is a really great question, to be honest. And I reflect a lot about this question actually, because I always think about my own place as like even an ancestor in my own lineage. And I truly believe that like my ancestors are around me, that my grandparents that have passed, they're around me, and I can, connect with them in the present day. So when I think about, the future and what I hope for those descendants that come after me is, I dream that things are just so much easier for them. I truly believe that
Mm-hmm.
like they shouldn't suffer, that, our so many
Mm-hmm.
generations before us have suffered.
Mm-hmm.
Even just closely thinking about the women in my lineage specifically, and how, you know, um, just to share, it's been just historically in my family, women have never had a choice in regards to, their partners and who they've been with. So when I think about the descendants, I just want the complete opposite of that. I want them to have a choice. I want them to be able to be free, to not have, fear tie them down. A lot of the time growing up in an immigrant household, I feel like I internalized a lot of fear
Mm-hmm.
about branching out, a lot of fear about trying new things. And so my expectation that with those future descendants is that they can release that fear, that they can, grow their wings and fly and fail and stand up. And it's not this huge, like, looming fear that,
Mm-hmm.
prevents that. And I really see that with my niece. I see the way that she's growing up and the way that she has this curiosity built up in her, that she's willing
Mm.
to
I love that.
explore. And yeah, and she's roller skating and she'll fall really badly and she'll still get back up.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't prevent her from continuing to do the things that she loves. So yeah, that's a really
Ah.
beautiful question, and that's what I would share. But
Hmm.
Brian,
No, I
I'm
love
so
that,
curious
friend.
to also hear
Yeah.
your perspective.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that. I think you've mentioned, I've heard you say like you being a young ancestor and you being an ancestor in your lineage, and definitely like the beauty of just the dreams and hopes you want for future generation, and really just paving the way to have such a like just a different perspective, different um feelings towards new experiences, whether new experiences or experience or even the current experiences for yeah, just the future generations from your lineage. It's such a beautiful thing to hear, just the release of the fear, the release of
Yeah.
yeah, like having no options or choices. I think that's pretty beautiful, friend. Appreciate you saying that.
Thank you, friend.
Yeah, I think for me, and it's this question is really funny, and I laugh because my partner and I, Amani, like we always have these. What will you do if your kid does this. It's like scenarios, kind of like those hypothetical scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And kids was never in my forefront, to be honest, until I met Amani. I wasn't interested in necessarily being a mom or raising kids. But Amani, I think, over the years, and again, getting to know her and just the shared values we have in terms of being really close to family and wanting the best for our family, I do think I've come around and yeah, like eventually do want to have kids with my partner, and the dreams I have like for future generations, are my kids is essentially like in parallel with what you said, friend, is also the ability to just be emotionally connected with themselves and have the ability to freely express their feelings and communicate it really well and love themselves authentically as a kid who's going to be biracial and really understanding what that means for them and really having them be at utmost acceptance of their identities, whatever intersecting identities they develop, and
Mm-hmm.
have that confidence in them from the get-go and build that joy in them really early on. I would say are dreams that I have for my future kids and then their future kids is essentially, yeah, breaking through that like that emotional blockage that I experienced in a way as a kid of not being able to express myself and not knowing what tools to tap into and just wanting them to be the truest, more authentic, most mindful self in whatever that means for them and whatever that feels right for them and just having Amani and I be that support person for them who's going to love them unconditionally and authentically and instill that confidence in them
Yeah.
again as a kid who's going to be biracial and have multiple intersecting identities. So I would say that's my dreams and hope for my future kids and grandchildren.
That was so sweet, friend. That is so sweet. And, I just know that whatever you and Monty are planning, I know that you will be great parents. And
Thanks, friends.
I, I'm just so thankful to, get to experience you and Amani together and hang out with you all and learn just so much about the way you two communicate, express yourselves with each other. That the confidence that I have in you two being just great parents is huge because of the way that I just see both of you intentionally work on yourselves, but also intentionally work on your partnership. So yeah, friend, that is so beautiful. And literally, as you were saying it, I just couldn't stop smiling because I think it's just so incredibly beautiful the partnership that you two have together.
Thanks, friend. I appreciate it. And yeah, and I appreciate the question too. I think it's always helpful. I mean, in my therapy sessions, my therapist always asks, like, what are your dreams and hopes for X
Mhm.
situation? I'm like, oh, that's a good way to frame maybe a not so good situation, like just talking about what are the hopes and dreams or hopes for it, even if it's not an ideal situation. So
Yeah.
I think that's what it brought me. So yeah, I appreciate the question a lot.
Definitely, friend. Thank you so much for always just being open to make this space super vulnerable as well. I think that's what makes it so special about having two friends on a podcast.
Yeah,
But, on that note, I am really excited to catch up with you
yeah. Mhm.
around your creative project, share a little bit of updates on my end as well. Um,
Yeah.
but I want to kick it off to you, friend, because we've alluded to some very exciting updates. And I know we spoke with Amani previously in the last episode, so I'm just excited to hear a continuation of
Yeah.
what's happened since we last chatted.
Yeah, so the big updates with Hoop as You Are again, Haya, which is the woman and queer basketball community that we're creating, and the league that we launched back in April. Excited to say that. I mean, I guess it's bittersweet, but definitely on the sweeter side. But the league did end this past weekend with our championship game and all-star game, and just the community that came out, the families and friends and players who didn't make it to the championship games or the all-star games. Like they came out and just wanted to have a good time and support the teams that were left. So seeing that and to just come into like culmination and reflecting back from the very first day of the league where Amani and I didn't know what to expect. We didn't know the people that were going to be there. We didn't know if the space was going to feel safe and inclusive and intentional as we wanted it to be, since we had to really collaborate with the county's logistics. And just reflecting back and just this past weekend on Saturday, and it brought us back to that first day jitters, but not necessarily because we had jitters or we didn't know what to expect, but just in for me at least, like a complete awe of just the community that came out, the players and their families, and the thrill of the games, and we actually did successfully have a councilman actually also come out and say a few words and remarked. And this councilman in Montgomery County is the first openly gay councilman. So
Mm,
during Pride Month, it was such a big deal for them to one support the space that Amani and I helped create,
yeah.
but then to also say a few remarks for Hoop as You Are and the community we're building. And again, I think I was just like in awe and just in complete joy with the community and how accepting they were and trusting us with the process, and equally how intentional like everything and or culminated, and got to spend time with the players and community out after the games and celebrated with them as well. So all in all, I think it was a great league, great culmination, and we're thinking of next steps and just thinking of ways to continue that momentum of continuing to create the brand that we're building, but also continue to engage with the community members we've met in the league.
Yeah, friend, that's so incredible. Congrats on the championship game. Just, the culmination of the season. Honestly, what a wonderful celebration for it to happen during, like you said, Pride Month. And also just have the acknowledgement from which you obviously didn't need, but having a council person come in and speak to the community directly, I feel like it just shows such a great like faith, like just trust with the community. And so that's really incredible. And you kind of touched on this,
Yeah.
that you're thinking about next steps and you're thinking about what's next, and we've talked a little bit about that. But before we jump into that, I guess, like, what surprised you the most about how the community came together?
Yeah, honestly, I do think it was like surprising to me how just the positive. Oh no, it wasn't. Okay, the positive things weren't surprising to me because Amani and I were very intentional about it. But
Yeah.
I think even the community going out of the way to make sure we receive cards, and they
Mm,
gifted us with a basketball, and this is just from the
yeah.
players, nothing from the county, nothing from this is solely from the community members, from the players themselves. um we had folks like sign cards and just reading the cards, and just I remember like reading, and it said like, oh, you helped me connect with my childhood joy, and
Oh
oh,
my
thanks
god.
for the safe space
Yeah.
you created for
Yeah.
LGBTQ plus individuals. And like this has been like a treat in having the space to play basketball again. So I think that was the most surprising to me, was just the overwhelmingly validation of how much the space was needed, not just for Amani and I, because we needed the space and that's what we created, but for so many other people who were participants of the league.
Yeah.
And I think just reading the card with, again, that overwhelmingly positive impact that we had by creating the space, and again reconnecting folks with their childhood joy, or reconnecting folks from, and not gonna lie, we had conversations with players who said like, they were they grew up in a very competitive landscape where like with their like and I say dads because a couple of players mentioned like, yeah, I didn't like my dad being the coach, and it was a long
Mm-hmm.
car ride back, and when my dad found out that I was playing in this league, like I didn't want them to come to the game, but then they came around and they wanted their dad to come and see them.
Wow.
So it was kind of like a
Yeah.
full circle, in quotes, healing moment for
Mhm.
players too, who maybe had that not so positive experience in, again, growing up in competitive basketball sport, and parental figures who was also very into the sport, but now to see them as very grown adults and have their dad watch them again, or even their
Yeah.
parents watch
Yeah.
them again, was also the other thing that shocked me. Was like, in a way, it was pretty, I mean, I like to use the word healing, but I guess it was like a full circle moment for not just
Mhm.
myself and Amani, but for some players who shared like,
Yeah.
yeah, now my dad can't say shit to me because I'm a grown adult and it doesn't bother me as much anymore. So just
Yeah.
hearing those stories were also very, I think,
Wow.
was shocking to me.
That is so beautiful, friend. I feel like that's something that you can't even encompass into a, like a feeling, like, being able to reconnect with your inner child, being able
Yeah.
to reconnect with your childhood, reclaim your power from, like,
Yes.
all these things you can't, it's
Yeah.
really hard to put into a single like word. Like you said, it's a whole process, it's a whole healing process.
Yeah.
And so, can you share a little bit more about that, that healing piece? Because I think that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And being able to like heal through your hobby. And you can speak in, like, of course, in your own personal experience
Absolutely.
of how this whole season has helped you as part of also your own like spiritual and healing journey as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think specifically from my experience, playing basketball was, and being in athletics and was something that like helped me growing up as an inner city youth in LA, saw like really in the hood, saw the nitty-gritty of gangs, the nitty-gritty of um just being in poverty or being poor, and but having this sport that just brought so much joy in me, and then
Mm,
creating that space, being able to express who I am freely on the court, of just whether it's laughter or passion about not getting a rebound, or passion about not like scoring, or passion about like my teammate making a really cool move on the court. It was really such a healing moment for me because it allowed me to express all those emotions I had
yeah.
as a child, perhaps unconsciously growing up in inner city LA, and not being able to do that because, again, like I think the only place I was able to do that was on the court when I was in full mode competitive mode, and had an ability to express different emotions that I didn't even know I was expressing. But back
Mm,
in, again, in this, in my adulthood now, like being so aware of like, oh my God, yeah, I'm such a very passionate player. Like I am down in the deep
I
end, I will
love
run you
that.
down, and I'll also laugh when I made like, oh, an air ball. Like I think just being able to express those, just the wide variations of the emotions I couldn't because I didn't know how,
Mhm.
um, was such a way to honor my inner child, to honor that playfulness, little
Yeah.
Mary, to honor like also the inner competitive in me, to want to perform well, but also take it down a notch. Is not that serious. It's a league for adults to be fun. Um, so I do
Oh,
think Haya and the community and brought a lot of those emotions back of like, shoot, like these were the emotions like I wanted to feel as a kid and express, and but I couldn't because I didn't know how. But
mhm,
in playing basketball, and in playing basketball with people that make me feel safe because they have similar
mhm.
experiences, and whether, and if, even if they didn't, they made it feel very safe, um, was something that I think, yeah, it was myself honoring that little Mary and continuing
Wow.
to honor that part of me that just want to play basketball and not
Mm,
really be in a classroom. um, so I think, yeah, that's in my own experience how I feel like this community we're building, and the sport itself
mm.
has been very, I guess, liberating, and
Yeah.
in a way to honor like who I am as a person, especially as a queer person, and and yeah, I think that's where I was at in terms of just having the space for myself, for my partner, but also for others who may have similar parallels or similar experiences.
Wow, friend, I love that. I love that, specifically what you mentioned around just reflecting back on basketball in your childhood and realizing that that was a form for you to express your emotions and be able to, you know, be able to remove any barriers from that emotional expression that I know we've talked a little bit about, but to see that you always felt that in that core and that was always that
Yeah.
safe space for you, and to see the way that you've also brought that back, and not only brought that back but also are sharing that with others, is so incredible. We talked about the playground, right? Like having the
Yes.
playground, having the playmates, and you built the playground with
I
Amani, with
did.
this community.
It's true.
And now you have all these incredible playmates. You're having the best time. You're connecting with your inner joy. You're laughing together, competing together, celebrating together. And that is just such a, this championship is like a, it feels like such a beautiful culmination of all of that. And just even just
Hmm.
reflecting in the beginning of our conversations, talking about Haya, from like, if we go back to a couple episodes back, we can talk about how Haya started, what were some of the initial challenges. And now today we're talking about how the season has ended. So
Hmm.
it's just so beautiful. Like you said, full circle.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and again, yeah, lots of joy there. But enough of me. I want to hear about the Derby vibes and your just the creative life project you're exploring, and the play that or the play that you've also been exploring with roller derby, and even through writing as well. So friend, I know last time we spoke, I think you were about 2.5, you're almost going maybe 3 months in your derby experience, but
Yeah.
love to hear, like, did you compete yet? What's up with that?
Yes. No, well, I haven't competed yet. I'm about 2 months in now, in my derby experience.
My gosh.
And I feel like it's been a lot of ups and downs, to be
Yeah.
honest. Like, I don't have that overwhelming fear of wanting to quit right
Mhm.
before every practice. I don't have that anymore. I feel like I've pushed through that. I've accepted that. But I feel like now where I'm at, it's I'm in a place where I'm really working on trying to like build my confidence when it comes to
Mm,
skating. I
yeah.
feel like I have some of the and this is something that I've like in general have I'm trying to apply to my creative journey, just like building that confidence.
Mm,
Um I feel like I've like, even with Derby, for example, I've laid a lot of the foundations around, just like safety, right? Like I know how to fall safely. I know how to do like certain moves to ensure that I'm like not hurting myself when I'm stopping or stuff like that. Like I have the right foundations. But I had an assessment, like a mid assessment. So it's not like the final assessment,
yeah.
but it's like right like in between. And honestly, I did terribly. I did so bad. One, I was like super nervous. I was like just really like scared about any assessment makes me nervous. So I feel like I literally felt like I was like, oh my gosh, I starting from scratch in my head.
Mhm.
But that assessment, like my biggest takeaway from that was literally what I mentioned there, that I don't have the confidence. Like
Mm,
literally, my coach was like, she was like, you know the right things to do, but every time you start going fast, you start slowing yourself down. And I was
mm,
like, oh my gosh, this could be like a larger lesson for life. Because I do feel like that's one thing that I've been reflecting a lot on. Like,
mhm,
I feel like sometimes I have all the right quote unquote foundations or all the right skills, and then I just have a hard time like having the confidence to fully push it through. And like I said, I've seen that in when I reflect even in my work. I've seen that in when I reflect on like my writing. I
mm,
see that in all these things where I lack the confidence to
mm,
follow through. And honestly, like Derby, it's such a clear way to see it. Like I feel like I can
mm,
see the way that I stop myself, even the way that I'm like I'm going really fast, and then I'll start like using my hands to like like slow down and like try to like bring myself back to a slower
mhm,
pace.
mhm.
Um, so I that's been like, that was an interesting thing. And when she said that, I laughed because I was like, oh gosh, that's like literally me. I always like slow myself down when
Yeah.
I'm like, I could be picking up the pace. But yeah, that's been the biggest lesson, Brandon. I've been trying to really like focus on that, and the way that I've been addressing that is by getting more time doing that specific activity. So like for
Mm,
skating, I started added more time to skate, and I mentioned that was like a challenge last time where I was like,
yeah.
I was only doing this during practice time
Practice.
and I wasn't including that. But yeah, I started like trying to skate like outside more, like try different like places to
Mm,
skate, just to
mhm,
build my confidence with that. And I think that's been the same thing with writing, where I feel like what has
mhm,
always prevented me from writing has been a lack of confidence in my writing.
mhm, mhm,
To be honest, in college, I never saw myself as a great writer. So it's something where even shifting my mindset on that has been like a bit of a
mhm,
challenge. But
mhm.
I feel like the biggest lesson on that has been like making the space, the time in the practice to do these things, even if it doesn't feel like I'm making progress, or even if it doesn't feel like, like if I still feel like I'm building confidence, I still have to dedicate that time. And that's what I've been trying to do and focus on.
Yeah, friend. I appreciate you sharing the updates with the assessment. I don't know. Wow, it was that serious with the assessment.
Yeah, they have
But no,
assessments.
that's great. I mean, I think yeah, I mean, I think assessments are good pulse checked, I like to say. But I think one thing that came to mind was I know when you started your derby um, hobby and your just the exploration of derby, a lot of that was, I think, propelled by just seeing your niece
Yes.
rollerblade, and then you rollerblade with her along the way, and then you found joy in that. So, how do you think you can use not use your niece, but use the joy that you saw in your niece combined with just the joy that you had when roller skating with your niece as well to help you kind of continue to build on that inner confidence that you're building on?
Yeah, friend, that is such a good question. And yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that. I actually signed up for additional classes with my niece.
Yeah,
Kind of funny because
awesome.
I'm the only adult. So it's
That's
like me
awesome.
and a bunch of little kids. And so that's something that's I'm trying to do to build my confidence. Like
That's
I
awesome.
have this
Yeah,
class with my niece. We go every Saturday morning.
that's so
Um,
cool.
and literally I remember the first day I went, I thought it was all ages. I mean, technically it is because
And
they
then
let
there
me
you are
stay.
with the 5, 6 year old.
But yeah, here I am, the literally the only adult. And it was funny because one of the little girls was like, "Oh, you're supposed to do it this way." I'm like, "Thank you."
That's perfect.
But
Yeah,
it's just like, yeah, but yeah, I'm finding
I
like
love that.
more time to skate with her. Whether it's like we have this class together where we're both in it on Saturdays, and she finds it funny that I'm in it, and so that's like one way we're carving out more time. I think also,
Mm,
like I said, finding new places to skate with her.
yeah.
So I've been skating with her outside. Actually, she's the one that likes to skate like on the sidewalk and actually like be more intense. And so she's like pushing me to do that. She's like, no, like if we're going on the walk, like bring your skates, because there's like a specific trail that is
Yeah.
really good for skating. And I would not have done that if she hadn't initially gone on skates on her walk and she
That's
saw how
awesome,
easy
friend.
that trail was. But yeah, those are things that I'm trying to bring the joy back and not make it like, oh, it's a thing that
Yeah.
I do every Wednesday.
Yeah.
Um, and I will say, like, there's things about Derby that, speaking of even just connecting to like healing and like speaking on that
Mm.
with basketball, I can see how there's parts of myself that are also healing through the process of Derby. This is gonna
Hmm.
sound
Yeah, say more.
counterintuitive, but last Wednesday I literally got knocked out at Derby. um like we were doing a cool down, I'm trying to set the stage for y'all, but we were doing a cool down, and in a cool down you're just like going around the track slow. It's not supposed to be fast. And so I'm like doing my cool down on the track. All of a sudden some of the advanced skaters start playing tag on the track.
Oh,
And like I'm fine, I'm at the edge of the track, I'm totally fine.
yeah.
um, but like it literally happened in slow motion where I'm like turning the corner and I see like one of the skaters, and I see her from the corner of my eye, and it starts going in slow motion, but I see that she's coming straight towards me, and I can see in her face that she can't stop. Like, she cannot stop. And she literally comes at me so fast, and she slams into me. And I literally, like, I don't even know what I was thinking, but literally in that moment, like, I felt that she kind of grabbed me to try to keep me up. We had just ended up like plopping down on the floor.
No way.
And obviously, like, my side hurt. It was a little painful and stuff because I obviously somebody knocking into you.
Yeah.
But in that moment, tell me why I got up, and I was like, oh shit, like, that was great. Like, I felt so in my body. Like, literally, I felt like I had had such a stressful week. I was all in my head about work. In that moment when I got knocked down, I was not thinking about anything else but falling. And so when I got up, I kid you not, I had not felt more grounded than in that moment, like getting up from getting knocked down. It really forced me to be in my body. It forced me to be present. I was totally fine. I was okay. Yeah. I'm not saying I need to be knocked down to be grounded, but it was a moment where, yeah, I think that it's one of the things that it forces me to be present. It forces me to, like, in a way, it's kind of a meditation because I can't be thinking about other things. I'm solely thinking about being in these skates, not falling. So yeah, it was kind of a moment where I was like, this is, yeah, sometimes you got to get knocked down to get back up.
Literally, right? Figuratively and non-figuratively. But no, I love that. I love hearing the part of you that was just so in tune with your body. You're like, oh, okay, that woke me up or that knocked me out. But again, almost that feeling. Well, not again. You don't want to get hurt again.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it may happen again.
Yeah, I love that. Like, it just sounds like you were super present in just the environment and your body. And even though it hurt, it's kind of like, wow, like maybe you needed that knocking down to just reset almost. So thank you for sharing that, friend. And I'm glad you're okay, because derby can be very dangerous.
I have all my protective gear. I had my helmet. Like, I had everything on. I'm good.
That's good, friend. I love that. Wow. Okay. Wow.
Great. Yeah, but to our audience, can you share with us, what helps you connect with your inner child? What hobbies are you currently reconnecting with or connecting with for the first time that are, making you feel connected with your inner joy?
Thanks for tuning in. Creative Hora is a podcast production hosted by Dalia Zaragoza and Mary Figueroa. This episode is edited by Abdullah Karish and is produced by akstudio.global.